All right, well, welcome everyone to today's live on ServiceNow session. We'll be covering the new enhancements for ServiceNow's process mining solution in the Yokohama release. This is the slide that says, "Hey, anything I say and do here today can't be held against me in the court of law." Also, the slide that says, hey, as part of this conversation, if we happen to make any forward-looking statements about things that might be coming on the ServiceNow platform, you should take them as such. Make no decisions based on those statements whatsoever, because they're always subject to change. And I'm assuming you've all read the fine print. For those that I've not met before, my name is Dan Grady. I'm part of the process mining product management team. I have some teammates that typically join me on sessions like this. I don't believe they're able to make it today, but I wanted to make sure you're aware that Rosman Parpia and Damien Pascal are two members of our outbound process mining product management team that share a ton of content in the community and host many webinars just like this. So look for them and the content they provide in the community moving forward. I always like to start these sessions with this quote, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And I like the quote because it usually aligns to the reason we've all gathered like we have here today, to learn a little bit more about the ServiceNow platform, take that knowledge, go back, apply it, get more value out of your investment in ServiceNow. And it also aligns to the solution that we'll be talking about today, process mining, which is designed to help us x-ray the business processes and workflows we have running in our organization and start to show us where and how we could be doing better for everyone involved. So what will we do here today? Well, the first thing we do is we always like to start with a little 2 or 3 minute process mining 101, the level set for folks, what process mining is and the value that it provides. And then we'll jump into the new features for process mining in the Yokohama release, or the enhancement that we've made. I'll run through them all in slides, and then we'll jump over into the instance. I'll demonstrate as many of them as I possibly can. We'll get your questions answered, and then we'll jump into some resources that you can learn more about process mining after today if you're interested in doing that. On the questions front, what I'm going to ask you to do is as you think of questions during the session, please put them in the Q&A. I'm probably not going to get to them during the content itself, but once we get through the demonstration piece, I'll go over and I'll go through the list of questions. Don't wait until that point in time. If you think of a question, please get it in so you don't lose it. I want to make sure we get as many of your questions answered here today, but just know that we might be waiting till the end to get those questions answered. All right. As always, we'll start with the quick process mining 101 for our newcomers. So with everything we do, there's a design and desired path in our minds for how it should work and how things should play out, whether it be planning a webinar like this, or a business process. And when you design things, we design for both completeness and efficiency to provide the best experience possible for as many people as possible. Unfortunately, what we design isn't always what ends up happening in reality. The reality is not all the work is going to be flowing through the processes. It's not always going to be taking the optimal path. And that's going to have a negative impact on both the experience somebody requesting a service is having, as well as those people trying to deliver the service. Now, identifying what's actually happening within a process and then improving them isn't always easy and obvious. What process mining allows us to do is use the audit log data that's generated as records move through a given process to create a visual representation of what's actually happening within that process. And this new level of visibility is going to help us accelerate our ability to identify inefficiencies, non-conformant process activities, and improvement opportunities. Process mining gives us the ability to answer process questions that have historically been very challenging to answer. So where traditional analytics will allow us to answer a lot of the what style questions about our process, process mining helps us answer the whys. So things like, where is our process getting stuck? Where is there's rework loops in the process? Where is the work ping-ponging or bouncing between different groups or teams? Where aren't we conforming to the process that we've designed? All of these things have historically been difficult to answer and act upon, but now with process mining, we can get to those answers in a couple of clicks. We like to say that process mining is going to get you to the why behind all of your KPIs. And in doing so, it helps empower everyone involved in the process to make more data-driven decisions about which improvements to make, which ones to prioritize, which ones we can put on the back burner. But now we have data-driven conversations about where we should be taking action to improve the workflows within our organization. All right, on to Yokohama and all the newness that it provides. So process mining was initially released in Quebec, and we've made rapid and significant enhancements to the solution since then. And of course, the Yokohama release is no different. I'm going to have to adjust this slide because there's no more room on here. I realized that when I was putting this slide together, that next release probably going to be time for a new one. And from an overarching perspective, we are focused on accelerating our customers' time to value, empowering everyone with process mining insights, and providing end-to-end process visibility. The enhancements in the Yokohama release align to those themes. And things like we have a brand new guided setup experience for process configuration records to help our customers scale process mining project creation to more and more people in the organization. We're super excited about our first Now Assist skill for process mining. It's going to help us summarize work notes clusters. It's probably the highlight of the release for most people. We've extended our evaluation project coverage to HR and customer case. We've made journal fields available for use as activity definitions. And one of my favorite enhancements is the ability to apply transition filters prior to mining. It's going to be super useful in controlling the size of your process mining projects. Now, all of these aim to broaden the accessibility of process mining insights so that everyone in an organization can make more informed process improvement decisions at a much faster pace than what they're typically used to. I mean, that's almost a requirement in these days. I'm sure you guys are all experiencing this. Every organization is trying to move faster than they've ever tried to move before. Having visibility into kind of the impact the changes we're making and accelerated visibility into where we should be making changes is really, really important. So plenty to be excited about in the Yokohama release, so let's dive into each of these. Now, as customers upgraded to the Xanadu release, they should have noticed that the process mining workspace appeared in their list of workspaces. We've made the decision to enable process mining on all instances to give everyone a taste of what process mining could do for them. So in Xanadu, we introduced an evaluation project for incident. Now, that project allows you to mine incidents that have closed in the last 7 days, up to 3,600 incidents. It's simply to give you an idea of the level of visibility into your own process data that's available. The initial evaluation project was so well received in Xanadu. In Yokohama, we've expanded and now have evaluation projects for HR and customer service case. Same focused approach, 3,600 cases closed in the last 7 days. And if you want to learn more about these evaluation projects, there's a short video available on the community site that walks you through what they are and how you can start using them. Just again, they're just there to give you a little taste of what process mining could do for you. Now, over the last few releases, we've significantly reduced our customers' time to value with the introduction of a guided setup experience for project creation and another guided setup experience for improvement opportunities. Now, in Yokohama, we've added a guided setup experience for process configuration records. So for every process or table that you want to mine, let's say incident, HR case, demand, or a custom table that you've created for yourself, you need to have a process configuration record. It's created to hold the base preferences and configurations for that specific process or table. So for example, the process configuration record is where you define which fields to be using with, let's say, root cause analysis or the cluster or work notes analysis for a given process. And the process configuration record is also where you can define improvement opportunities that can be imported and reused by others as they create their own projects to analyze different processes within an organization. Now, the process mining content packs available in the ServiceNow store for the different workflows deliver many of these process configuration records. But for situations where we don't offer a content pack, for example, when you've authored your own process on the platform, you'll want to create a process configuration record of your own. And this new experience that we have is going to make it easier for process SMEs to set up some initial values and guardrails that can guide less experienced process mining users through the project creation process. One example of how you can use the process configuration record to make it easier for others to create projects is by using the activity definitions recommendations capability. So you can set up specific fields to be recommended as activity definitions for those who are creating process mining projects. It may seem like a small thing, but for those of you that are actively scaling your process mining programs, you know this is going to be a big help. And this recommendation capability is also available for breakdowns as well. So it's not just activities, it's breakdowns. So when somebody's creating a new project, it says, hey, you might want to try these fields as they go through that process. Little thing goes a long way though. Another thing that you can configure in these new process configuration records is potential child tables for use in multidimensional process maps. This allows us to offer a single click configuration of those child tables during the project creation process. Again, another small thing that removes some potential confusion for newcomers and makes project creation more efficient for everyone. We already had single toggles to add approvals or SLA breaches to a process map. Now we can add, let's say, all the tasks associated with the requested item in a single click if we wanted to do that. All right, that brings me to what might be the most impactful enhancement in the Yokohama release for process mining: work notes analysis summarization. Now, since much of the actionable information comes from the details of what people are doing on the front lines, how can we make it easier to surface those insights? Well, in the Xanadu release, we introduced the ability to cluster work notes on inefficient process transitions. It helps us to understand what might be happening during those transitions. An example of an inefficient transition might be, let's say, work that is slowly moving from an in progress to a resolved state, or work that is consistently moving between two groups. The clustering of the work notes helped streamline the process of identifying process improvement opportunities. Now, in Yokohama, we've taken it to a whole nother level. We've introduced a Now Assist skill that will summarize the work notes within those individual clusters, making it even easier to identify what actions we can take to improve the overall process. Like if you think about it, process mining traditionally is great at helping us identify where there's bottlenecks, inefficiencies, rework loops, all those types of things. But how you fix those inefficiencies or how you address those inefficiencies, that lives within data, within the records itself. It lives within the short descriptions, the work notes. The fact that now we're harvesting this data and then presenting it to you in a very easy to consume way is such a time saver from a kind of insight to action perspective. I was explaining this new capability to a current process mining customer at our federal forum a week or two ago, and they almost did a cartwheel right on the expo floor when they heard that this was coming. Now, there are a handful of enhancements that I'm very excited about because they're based on customer feedback and they align to a few very specific and common use cases. The first one is the ability to apply transition filters prior to mining a project. Transition filters are a very powerful process mining capability. They allow you to use different steps in the process and the time between those steps to filter and isolate certain process data. For example, many customers use transition filters to look for automation opportunities by isolating work that's taking longer than 2 minutes, but less than 15 minutes to move from a state of, let's say, in progress to a resolve. If you think about it, right, anything less than 2 minutes, we've already automated, but anything longer than two, but less than 15, a human's still doing, but they're not spending a lot of time doing any critical problem solving. There's got to be some self-service opportunities there, some automation opportunities, maybe even opportunity for an AI agent to take on some of that work. But it's very powerful to use these transition filters to look for things like that. And up until the Yokohama release, transition filters could only be applied within the analyst workbench after a project had been mined. In Yokohama, though, you can now apply transition filters prior to mining a project. This is going to allow you to create more targeted projects, and it's going to significantly reduce the amount of data you need to include in each project. One specific use case this will help with is that we've been asked for this one a lot, which is one of the drivers behind this feature is show me all the situations where a given team or group was involved in the process. Not just, they weren't the team that closed it necessarily, but they touched the work at some point. So prior to this enhancement, you would have had to create a project with all the records and filter it after the fact in the workspace. And that's no longer the case. I know at least 5 customers are going to be super excited about this one. In fact, actually, I spoke to one of those customers this week, and they're over the moon that this is coming. We've also added a few new transition filter conditions like is empty, is not empty, or, and these are going to give you the ability to attack even more use cases moving forward. Next, we've added the ability to use journal and string fields as grouped activity definitions. This enhancement is going to help you analyze agent response or reaction time. So when someone acts on a record in the ServiceNow platform, a work note or a comment is typically updated on that record. And very often that's the only indication that an action was taken. Like maybe the state didn't change, but a work note was added. With this new enhancement, we're going to be able to identify, visualize, and analyze agent reaction or response time in relation to the other steps of the process, like, let's say, group assignment or assign to values. And this is going to give us the ability to answer questions like how long after the work moved to an assigned state was the initial contact with the customer? It's a very common ask that we get. This now allows us to start to visualize and answer that question. Now, the prior use case requires you to put multiple activity definitions on the visualized process map. One activity definition to represent the state change, another to represent the work note or comment update. It's not uncommon for us to use multiple activity definitions in a single map. In fact, in the Xanadu release, we added the concept of views to allow you to toggle different activity definitions on and off within the analyst workbench. So you can include a whole bunch of activity definitions like state, assignment group, and priority. And then depending on the type of analysis, you just choose you want to look at the assignment group view of the project. In Yokohama, you now have a little bit more control over how multiple activities that occur at the same time are represented on the map. For example, in prior releases, if there was a state change and an assignment group change that occurred simultaneously, the assignment group change would appear first on the map because assignment group is alphabetically before state. For some, this order was confusing. I'm included in that group. In the Yokohama release, there's now an order value that you can apply to your activity definitions to control how they are represented on the map. It's order value, much like everything else on the platform. Kind of you just give it a numeric value, and that controls the order in which things are visualized. The next one is a customer ask, and I think it's largely had to do with the fact that many don't take advantage of the filter set capability that comes or that allows you to save the analysis you're doing at certain points in time. But when we have a customer ask, we respond to them. So when you apply a breakdown filter or a transition filter or any sort of interaction with the process map in the analyst workbench for the first time, a scheduled task gets created. This helps prevent any impact to the performance of the instance itself. You then apply the result of that task from the scheduled tasks panel. You now have the ability to rename those scheduled task cards to make it easier to go back and apply them. My recommendation would still be if you have a combination of filters that you've applied that are useful, save them as filter sets. But you do have this ability now to rename these scheduled tasks. If you start to be clicking a lot of running a bunch of tasks at the same time, it's very easy. This makes it easier to go back and find the things that you did. And you'll see this in the demo portion. And the last improvement or enhancement that I want to touch on before we jump into the instances is what I like to call a boomerang enhancement, something we used to have removed and then brought back based on customer feedback and by popular demand. So the initial summary and insights layout that we had used to list out all of the improvement opportunities as cards instead of the current list view. And when we added the automated improvement opportunities for things like rework, ping pong, extra step, and slow transition, we thought there would be so many opportunities surfaced, it would make sense to move to a list view from the card view. Well, the feedback was that some customers like the card view. It's also way better for presentations, in my opinion. So we've added the ability to toggle between the list and the card view for your improvement opportunities moving forward. So now you have the ability to set your preference, if you will, so you can consume the information in whatever way is easiest for you. Another enhancement we've made to this view is the ability to move improvement opportunities between states like new, in progress, and archived, or new under review, sorry, and archived. And in the past, once you added a note or a continual improvement opportunity, it would move to the under review state, and there was no way to move it back. And sometimes it felt like they just disappeared on you. No longer the case. All right, let's jump into the instance and look at some of these live. So I'll come over here to my instance. Just so you can see, I'm currently now in the process mining workspace. If you're not familiar, this is how you would get to the process mining workspace, go up to your list of workspaces. If you just upgraded to Xanadu and you've never seen process mining before, I recommend that you check this out. And if you're in Xanadu, you'll see the incident evaluation project. If you're in Yokohama, you'll see incident HR case and customer service case. Inside of this workspace, you'll have all your projects, but we've added this new option for process mining admin. You'll see this wrench, and that's where you're going to get to your process configuration records. And like I said, you're going to have one of these for every table or process that you want to mine. I'm just going to open up the incident process configuration record and walk you through some of the things that you can now set inside of this record itself. Okay, just taking a minute to load. Perfect. So there's going to be 4 different sections inside of here: your process details, your investigative features, your impact metrics, and your improvement opportunities. We'll look at each of these. So now when you come in, you're going to be asked a bunch of questions. So you're going to be asked something like, which fields represent progressions of records through steps? If you're a process mining or a process expert, you'll know this as the control flow. Very often it's going to be your state field, or you might want to add your substate field. It's also going to ask you which field represents a group owning the record or a team owning the record. Very often it's going to be your assignment group field. What if it's assigned to an individual person, what field represents that? And then there are other fields that are going to be commonly used in your analysis. It'll ask you, and you just fill those out. These are going to start to surface recommendations for activities, breakdowns, and improvement opportunities as you start moving to process creation or project creation. It also gives you the ability to set which fields you think would be good for breakdowns. Again, this is meant to kind of enable the person who might be using the project creation experience for the first time, and we'll ask you for priority. And then if there's any subtables or child tables that are linked to this process, like we're looking at incident here, let's say incident task, problem, change, things that would be related to this, you can start to set those up here. And that way you can add that single toggle in the process. A single toggle will be added in the process creation experience or project. I can't get that right today. The project creation experience um, to add these. So it just streamlines the process there for you. So just setting some initial values that would make sense for this. And then we'll move on to our investigative features. So for those unfamiliar with process mining, when you're working with the process data in the process mining workspace or analyst workbench, there's all these additional capabilities that help you dive into the data and uncover opportunities. Things like root cause analysis, cluster analysis, and work notes analysis to help you harvest some values from the unstructured data. This is where you would configure which fields you want to use as part of those ad hoc analysis that people would be doing. With the work notes analysis, this is where you also set up some additional configuration around time ranges and length of words to help control the quality of the output you're getting from analysis perspective. We've also added the ability to embed automation discovery, which is a platform capability as part of process mining projects. If you're using Incident, it's sometimes very helpful to have this turned on because we do have an out-of-the-box taxonomy for that. For most other workflows, the automation discovery is not going to help all that much. There's this concept of impact metrics that you would set up in here. So process mining, when you create a project, and we'll do this in a minute, we automatically generate a dashboard of closure times and a histogram of the distribution of those closure times as part of that project based on the data that you mined. But if you wanted to include your own platform analytics dashboard to add additional context for the person doing the analysis, you can do that. And you can set a default value for what dashboard you want to include within this step of the process here in the process configuration record. You also have this concept of KPI categories. So with the improvement opportunities, which are both rule-based and automated ways to uncover common inefficiencies inside of the project, you have the ability to link those improvement opportunities to certain KPIs. And down the road, what this gives you the ability to do is if you add any one of those KPIs to a dashboard, we can start to surface process mining insights linked to those KPIs in the insights panel for that dashboard. Many people in an organization don't know what KPIs have been created for them from a platform analytics perspective. This gives you, as the process SME or the process mining admin, the ability to set up some initial values so people don't even have to think about it. It just kind of automatically gets added for them to build some of that linkage that we need to surface these insights in other places. And then lastly, this is where you set up your improvement opportunities. These improvement opportunities, if you're not familiar, we have a whole Process Mining Academy session on them, but they give you the ability to set up rules to look for common inefficiencies or hypotheses about where you have inefficiencies within your processes, as well as take advantage of some of our more automated process inefficiency detectors, looking for things like ping-ponging and slow transitions and extra steps. And this will also recommend if, other automated process automated improvement opportunities that you may not have already included in this for this based on those fields that you've set up front in that process details section. So lots of stuff that you can configure in here. The goal of this is to make it easier for other people in the organization to create their projects. And we'll walk through the project creation process now. So it's super easy already, but you'll start to see where some of these things get manifested in the guided setup experience for project creation. So we'll come over here. I did that kind of quickly, so let me just come back. So this is the workspace again, process mining workspace. Here's all the different projects that we've already created. I just clicked on this create project button to start creating my new project. And we're going to call this project live on now. And we'll call it Y for Yokohama. And then I'm going to select my table that we want to mine, incident table. And that's the process configuration record that we were just looking at. And we'll hit create project just so you can see here if I wanted to add a dashboard of my own that wasn't the one that came with that process configuration record. I could come in here and I could add that dashboard right there and hit create project. And then this is going to bring me to the screen where we do the bulk of our configuration. So just like building a report, we're going to start to use some filter conditions to narrow down the data set that we want to mine. We always guide customers to look at work that's completed the process, and then you can do things like, hey, maybe you want to focus in on work that is come in or generated by humans and not, let's say, by an alerting mechanism or some sort of listener that you have. So we'll just say not alert, and this will narrow it down to about 24,000 incidents in this case, and we'll hit save. We're going to come back to this screen in a second. Then we're going to start to add our activities. So we'll come here, we'll say new, and this is where you'll start to see, these are the things that are changing over time that we're going to put on the process map. And you'll notice here, and I now have this get recommended fields. These values are based on what we've set up in that process configuration record. So we'll come here, we'll select the state field as that's recommended for me. And then what we can do is using this display order, this is another new enhancement. We're going to make sure that this state field is the first activity that shows if things are happening simultaneously. And this is a Yokohama feature, or not a Yokohama feature, something we read earlier, but I only want to include certain values from the state field. I want to include new and closed on the map. I'm not doing any analysis of things moving from state to state, but I do want to see the start and the finish. So we'll add those values there, and we'll hit save. And now let's add our, let's say, assignment group activity. So we'll come in here, I'll get recommended values, assignment group will be there again for me, and we'll hit select. Now this one I want to make sure appears after the state change if things were simultaneously. So I'll leave my display order as 50 here because 50 is greater than 10. Even though it's alphabetically first now, it will show second. And then lastly, just so you can see, I want to add a compound activity, multiple fields, and these will be our journal fields. I'm going to add when the work notes get updated or if there were any additional comments added, and I want this to appear after my assignment group. So I'll give it a display order of 60, and I'll just change the display name to be notes or comments added. So we've added 3 different activities. We've now controlled the order of them: state, assignment group, and comments. One of those activities happened to be a journal field, which is a new enhancement for Yokohama. And now we'll add some breakdowns. I think this is super easy from a time. Remember, we added some breakdowns. Well, instead of picking from the list, now I've got my recommended ones. I can just pick those off right here like this, and we'll hit save. That process configuration record also allowed us to set up that child table for analysis. So now, in addition to the single toggle for adding approvals or SLA breach, I've got that single toggle to add my child table. So it'll create that parent-child relationship for me. You're still going to want to come in here and set an activity value for this. So we'll come in here and we'll add our state field as an activity, and we'll save that. Maybe I'll give it a breakdown also for the child tasks for incident, and we'll say new, and we'll just maybe pick assignment group in this case and hit save. Now, this is my favorite feature. So I want to make sure I cover it. I'm going to come back to the filter conditions here. And this is the feature that allows us to add transition filters prior to mining the project, right? To get a very specific scenario, really shrink down the data set. So let's add a transition filter that says only show me work in which this CX Support Americas team has touched the work, or in this case, the incident as part of the process. So we'll add a first step here of, let's say, state is new. And we'll say state is new. And we only care about the first occurrence of that happening. And we'll say this, and then we'll add, say, state is new is eventually followed by, in this case, the group being Support Americas. And we'll look for my assignment group. Assignment group is, I think it's CX Support, CX Support Americas. And I don't care if it's the first, let's leave it as all and hit apply. So now when we hit the mine button, it's only going to package up data that at some point touches that CX Support Americas group. Doesn't have to be the first group, doesn't have to be the last group, could be in the middle somewhere, but it's really going to shrink down the size of the project. Again, prior to Yokohama, you could do this analysis, but you would have had to mine all of the data with all of the groups. This is going to shrink it down ahead of time. And now that I've done this, I can come and I can add my improvement opportunities that we set up in our process configuration record. So we'll add our rule-based and our automated. Again, value of setting it up there is in a single click. Somebody who doesn't know what they're doing can quickly add a whole bunch of potential improvement opportunities to be surfaced for their project. And then we'll hit review and mine. We'll hit the mine project button. And this is going to go out and it's going to mine the data. I'm not going to sit here and wait for this. This is going to take a couple of minutes. I've already got this already set up, so I'm just going to hit the cancel mining. But I did want you to see what the experience was like. Now that we've got that process configuration, some of the new enhancements that surface or streamlined capabilities that surface inside of the project creation experience, because we have those things in place. It's important, as well as that transition filter thing that I wanted you to see. So I'm just going to hit cancel on this. And then like a cooking show, I'm going to come over here to my finished project that had that same configuration and show you what some of those things might have manifested themselves as. So in this case here, I'm just going to come down my summary and insights page. Here's those two visualizations that I mentioned get generated for every project, your time to completion, as well as the distribution of those time to completion for the records. And then if I come over here to my improvement opportunities and I come to my variation analysis, which shows us all of the different routes that work is taking to get to closure, a couple of things that you'll notice here. One is the only states that you're seeing in this are new and closed. That's because we filtered those out. You'll also notice that they're appearing prior to the assignment group being set. And then if I look at all these different routes that the work is taking, you'll see that CX Support Americas is included in every single one of these different route combinations. So if I look at the routes that were most taken, or if I come in here and I look at the routes with the most steps, you're always and only going to see CX Support Americas in every single one of them that comes up on the screen there. That's that value of adding that filter condition or transition filter within the project itself. You'll also notice down here that I've got my improvement opportunities. I've got this toggle, right, to card view. Here's the list view that you're probably familiar to seeing. And I'm seeing things like my multi-hop issues, the total package time of 25 years for these 2,600 incidents that touch more than one team. If I'm interested in kind of toggling that over to a card view, I can do that. And then right from here, I can start doing things like adding a note to this to say, hey, please follow up. And you'll notice when I add this note, what's going to happen is that improvement opportunity is going to move to the under review section. In prior releases, once it moved to under review, no way of getting it back. But from here, I now have the ability to change the status of it and move it back. Super helpful, right? You're going to be working on things. Sometimes what happens for folks just happen to be there. Like when things move to these different tabs, we don't always notice that they're moving. And you're like, I knew I had an improvement opportunity here. Where did it go? Well, now we know where it went. And then the last thing is in prior releases, when you added that additional dashboard, that dashboard was in a drop-down list on the summary and insights page. We've now called it out as a separate tab. And I will take this as an opportunity just to remind everyone that you also have the ability, as of the Washington release or even the release prior to Washington, to add process mining maps as widgets on the dashboards that you're creating. So not everyone needs to live and breathe in this process mining workspace. You can start surfacing process mining insights to other stakeholders within the organization on the standard dashboards that you're pushing out there. On the analyst workbench itself, one thing that I wanted to show here, first, what you can see, we already kind of pointed this out, but you can see the ordering here. My state field is before my assignment group changes on this, which is because of that order value. I'm just going to come over here and let's add a filter of self-service and drill down on this. I need to get something that I've not already mined. Let's try email and portal. And if this doesn't work, I'll do a records view. There we go. I got my task is running in the background. Now, when I go to pick up that scheduled task, it's here. Mining, by default, it says mining breakdown, but I have the ability to come in here and say email and portal transition and save that just to rename this. So when I come back to pick up these tasks, it's a little bit more descriptive than me having to look at this applied value here and see what actually was applied. Super helpful if you're sharing this project for other people's. I will say though, once that finishes, I would highly recommend that you use these filter sets to save the filter paths that you've dug into from an analysis perspective. All right, what else? Oh, two more things to show here. One, not all that exciting, as you might imagine. These last two things, work notes demo data, not easy to create, right? All that text inside of the work notes, but I did want to show you what it might look like if you were to add that work notes field. Like, so somebody added a work note, somebody added an additional comment. We can surface that on the map to kind of show and do some analysis around reaction and response time. So you can do things like use transition filter to say, hey, show me all the situations where state is new, and then directly followed by work notes added is work notes added. And then let's say we only care about situations where it's taking longer than, I don't know, 2 hours for a work note to be added. So that's one of the use cases you can do now by adding that work notes or journal fields to your map, is you can do some of these transition filters on when, based on when an action was taken within a record. And then last thing to show you, and this is kind of the jewel, right, is the work notes analysis piece. Again, demo data is scarce when it comes to unstructured data, and it's not easy to create. But what you'll notice here is if I come down and you click on any arc on a map, in this case, we're looking at the arc where this test group is passing work to the change management group. You've got your show records, you've got your requester intent to cluster on the short descriptions and the descriptions, your root cause analysis. Of course, we can filter on the transition. But now you've got this work notes analysis capability, and you'll notice the little sparkle, I believe we call it here. That means this is going to be Now Assist powered. So when I run this, it's going to run the clustering, and it's going to then create these individual clusters of common work notes based on the unstructured or the text within those work notes. And then it runs summarization skill on top of those clusters to create this English-like description of what's actually happening as this work is moving from one step to another step and work notes are being added. You'll notice this little, I'll call it a quality metrics at the top here. With anything AI and machine learning generated, the quality of the data impacts the results we're going to get. So what this does is it gives us some descriptions of the data that we included inside of the summarization that we did, just so you get a sense of the quality of the work that's being done. And then right from here, we can drill down into the records. Huge, huge time saver. This is just demo data here. But I've actually seen this working on live, living, breathing records in customer instances, in our own instances here at ServiceNow. It is amazing what it surfaces for you and how it streamlines the process. All right, I know that was a lot. Now's a good time to get your questions in. If you haven't already been asking them, please, I'm going to go check the Q&A now, and I'll start getting some of those questions. But if you've got questions about anything you saw here today, Please ask now or get them in the Q&A section. First one here is, will process mining be available on PDIs? To my knowledge, not as of yet, because the PDIs are still not hooked up to the machine learning infrastructure which process mining uses. But this is a big but. If you go out to the Now Learning site, there is a new process mining essentials course out there that has a hands-on lab component. So if you register for that process mining essentials course, it's a Xanadu level course, I believe. It'll spin up a lab instance for you so you can get hands-on experience with process mining. So that's one way for you to get hands-on. The other is, now as of Xanadu, process mining is enabled in your instance, and there's that evaluation project. So once you get to the Xanadu level, go to that workspaces tab, look for process mining workspace. That's another way for you to get hands-on with process mining. Question about have you seen organizations devoting a full-time role to process mining, or which existing role most successfully delivers the capability? This is a great question. This is the who does this. This is awesome, but like, who does this, Dan? So I've seen lots of different approaches across the different customers that we work with. The one that is most successful is if there's somebody who, it might not be their full-time job, but somebody who is like the process mining SME, right? It could be a part-time gig, but they really understand process mining, how to use the workspace, how to dig into the workspace, and start to, get familiar with some of the common techniques to help surface opportunities to improve. That person partnering with a process SME or a business stakeholder who knows their process is the best combination. So, what I've seen in some organizations and here at ServiceNow is you run a little mining sprint, I'll call it, like a little 2-week engagement, let's say, where that process mining SME meets with the process owner. They sit down, they talk about the process and some potential inefficiencies that might be there. The process mining SME will then run away, create a project like you saw me just do here today, then dig into the data, find a couple of opportunities, and then reconvene with that process owner, and they work through the findings together. Because that process owner is going to be the person who really understands what the impact of an action might be that they could take, or whether it's a real opportunity or not. So that's the approach that I've seen work best. But I do see customers who this just becomes another tool in the kit of the person that's doing platform analytics or doing the reporting for the organization. I've seen other organizations where this is something that they roll out to the process owners themselves, and they're doing their own work. I've seen it work in lots of different ways, but that having somebody in the organization who kind of has some level of ownership of process mining is really important, I think, from a success perspective. All right. Any other questions? Please get them in if you've not already answered them or entered them. I'm not seeing any other at the moment. So what we'll do here is you'll have more time to get those in. Just a reminder, some additional resources above and beyond today. I've already talked about this one, but there is a process mining essentials course out there. If you want to get hands-on experience with process mining, please go take that course. There's a process mining community product hub or forum. If you've got questions, you're a little shy and don't want to ask them today, please go and post them on the community site in that forum. We check that on a regular basis, multiple times a day, to see if there's any questions that need answering. And we use a lot of those questions to guide some of the content that we're creating. There's a great guide to getting started. So there is tons and tons of process mining content out there on the internet. At this point, you don't need to go through all of it all at once, but if you want a kind of a curriculum of how to get started, this guide to getting started page organizes it. It's kind of saying, start here. Here's a quick little demo. Great. Here's how you create your first projects. Great. Here's how you use the analyst workbench. Great. Here are some common use cases. So it'll walk you through that content to get you going. And then as you're going through that content, you'll see all the other content, and you'll be able to make some more educated decisions about which things make the most sense for you. We do host a Process Mining Academy once a month. So these are 1-hour sessions, deep dives into different areas. Like we just did one that was process mining focused on how to use process mining for risk management. We have one focused on how to use process mining with universal request. There's a whole section on just how to use the histogram that comes with process mining. I think one of the upcoming sessions is how to use survey results as part of your process mining analysis. So get registered for that academy. We do deep dives there. There's something called the process mining use case series. So one of the things we recognized very early on is that process mining is a new muscle for a lot of our customers. So we broke this, we started breaking down common use cases like SLA breach analysis, multi-hop analysis, looking for automation opportunities into small 5-minute videos to show you how to do the analysis. Both of the Academy and the use case series are available on the community site. And then we also host an office hour session. Actually, I think our office hour session this month is tomorrow or the next day, but you can find the registration page for that in that guide to getting started, as well as on the process mining community page itself. All right. I mentioned the guide to getting started with process mining. So if this is your first exposure to process mining, welcome to the party. But if you wanted to start getting trained up or learned up a little bit more, this is a great place to start. Just go search ServiceNow Guide to Getting Started with Process Mining, or search it up on Google, or go to the community. You'll find this page. It'll walk you through a lot of the common content. All right. Last chance for romance. Any last questions that you have out there that we did not answer? Things that you want to get answered today? Or, something we could use for a future session? Give you another minute or two to get those questions in. As we're waiting for those questions to come in, so all that stuff that I just ran through, if you want to use these QR codes to get the direct link to them, feel free to do that. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So with that, I'll just say thank you for your time, everyone. Look forward to seeing you on future Process Mining Academy sessions or the office hours, or maybe meeting in person at Knowledge. Really, thank you for the time here today. Happy mining, everyone.